Now, listen, I know that I'm already not known for having the best video quality there is. I do record on the front facing camera of an iPhone, you know, but we even got even worse today. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. So if things do not work out or look as great as they can, please forgive me. I don't exactly have a studio grade camera. I'm using the webcam off my laptop that I've had for about 6 years now. So, we'll take it in stride, I guess, as much as we can. But I want to go over the iSideWith quiz and just walk through my thought process. It's been in beta ever since I've been in high school. All right. I found out the thing like in high school. All right. I'm way out of college now. Um, I want to take this quiz and I want to walk through my thought process behind it. So this is already gonna be a long video. Let's not waste time. All right. Should the president be able to authorize military force against Al Qaeda without congressional approval? Absolutely not. You have the president should not have the authority to do that, in my opinion. It just is. It leads to a ton of corruption, and we saw what happened in the Middle East. Should the U.S. assassinate suspected terrorists in foreign countries? I'm gonna go with no. I don't think that's our sovereign right to be able to just march into other places and just start killing people, even if it suits our best interest. It suits the state's best interest. That's for sure. How important is that to me? Somewhat. I would appreciate if we did not do that, but I'm not huge on it. Should the president mobilize the U.S. military against Mexican drug cartels? No, the drug war has been nothing but a massive disaster and has led to the destruction of millions of lives at this point, whether through, secret drug use, people are too ashamed or afraid to get help for, or through the actual literal loss of life. Should the electoral college be abolished? I'm going to say yes and switch to a ranked voting system. I truly believe that ranked voting is the way to go. I have a video about that. It's 2 videos ago, so it's not the Palestine video, but it's the video after that. That video, I talk a little bit in detail about ranked voting, and if you look in the description of that video, I link it to another video that goes through other types of voting systems where I just feel like ranked voting is truly the only way in a voting society to maintain the most amount of honesty and respect when it comes to the voting system. Should foreigners currently residing in the United States have the right to vote? Yes, because my thought process is anyone who pays taxes should be able to vote. Now, I know a lot of my conservative friends are going to get really upset with me about that, but the reality is if they're going to be feeding into the system, they should be able to speak into the system. Because at that point, they're being taxed without representation. So that's pretty important to me. Should an ID be required to vote? I think so. I know that's a little statist of me, but at the same time, I'm not an anarchist. I'm a minarchist. I don't think anarchism exactly. I don't think it's practically logical. So, should a photo ID be required to vote? I would say yes. We've seen too many issues with voter fraud to where, I think it's your right to vote, and getting a license. I have multiple licenses. So, if you're able to, I'm lower middle class. So, even if you're able to struggle and you're able to get a license. All right. If you cannot get a license, you have other issues than voting, to be honest with you. So yes, I think that's pretty important. Should political candidates be required to release their current tax returns to the public? No, but I also just don't really care. Should the minimum voting age be lowered? I'm going to say yes. If you pay taxes, you get to vote. And I understand kids are not super responsible, but a kid gets a job at 14, 15, 16. The government is making money off of these children without giving them the right to vote. And I think that that's messed up. Oh, but Andrew, their parents are going to indoctrinate them into voting a certain way. Every parent does that. You think a kid's going to stop doing that at 18? And plus, most teenagers I know are super angsty and are going to vote against whatever their parents say, whether the parents are super liberal or super conservative. So, bada bing, bada boom. But I'm not super. I don't care a ton about that. Should there be a limit to the amount of money a candidate can receive from a donor? Anything that puts limitations on politicians, I'm completely for. Should a politician who has been formally convicted of a crime be allowed to run for office? I think so. Yes, as long as the crime was not committed while in office. Like if you're committing murder or fraud or extortion or while you're in office, like you clearly cannot be trusted in office. But I mean, people make mistakes and can go through rehabilitation, can do other things. But, I always thought of it like you sleep around before you get married. Okay. As long as you're committed to that person, you're okay. But if you're sleeping around after marriage, like you clearly just can't be trusted. So that's that. I don't really care. Should every voter automatically receive mail-in ballot? No, mail-in ballots are just not secure whatsoever. Should corporations, unions, and nonprofit organizations be allowed to donate to political parties? I am a little torn on this because yes, private businesses and everything they're allowed to do their own thing, but the issue is, um, they're never lobbying for the people. So that's the issue, that they never lobby for the people. So I'm going to say no, but I am going to put it as least, because if I can go either way on it, I'm truly neutral about it. I'm not truly neutral. I'm leaning away on it, but I'm mostly neutral. Should there be a 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials from becoming lobbyists after they leave the government? Anything that puts restrictions on the government is happy. I'm happy with that. Should foreign lobbyists be allowed to raise money for American elections? I'm going to say no. I feel like that just is going to be a huge issue down the line. Should politicians over 75 years of age be required to pass a mental competency test? I'm going to say yes, because it puts more restrictions on the government. And to be honest, we really don't need people that have been in office for decades on decades continually serving. Get them out, get somebody else in. Should illegal immigrants have access to government subsidized healthcare? I would prefer that we don't have government subsidized healthcare. That would be my issue. So, but if we're going to do it, I'm just going to vote a soft yes on it because they don't have my option here. Yes, if we're going to have government subsidized healthcare, I think people that go into the system, and illegal immigrants pay taxes. All right, they very, very often pay taxes. If they do that, then they should be in the program. I think that's just fair. That's just fair to me. But because they don't have my option, I'm going to put down less on it. Should the U.S. build a wall? No, stop spending money. Should the children of illegal immigrants be granted legal citizenship if they're born in the U.S.? Yes. Should undocumented immigrants be offered in-state tuition rates at public colleges within their residing state? If they live there, they get the thing. So should sanctuary cities receive federal funding? Absolutely not. Nothing gets federal funding. We just need to stop spending money on crap. Should local law enforcement be allowed to detain illegal immigrants for minor crimes and transfer them to federal immigration authorities? No, you deal with the crime that was committed. You are detaining them for someone else is just it comes across to me just as a major overstep and a big problem showing our police state issues. Should working illegal immigrants be given temporary amnesty? Absolutely. Illegal immigrants contribute so much to our country, and to consistently antagonize them is a big issue. Now, a lot of the reasons why we have issues with legal immigration is because we continue to support the drug war. So if we stop supporting the drug war, illegal immigration stops becoming a huge issue. Should the U.S. increase restrictions on its current border security policy? I'm going to say no. But I understand right now the issue is really, really tumultuous. So if that were to happen for a temporary soft thing while we deal with the war on drugs, then okay. Should the U.S. increase or decrease the amount of temporary work visas? Just increase it. People need to come here, and people need help. Should immigrants be required to learn English? No, the United States doesn't even actually have an officially national language. Now, de facto, it is English. Everything that we do is in English. But if the Congress wanted to draft out a piece of law in Spanish, they 100% could do that, and there'd be nothing stopping them. So making immigrants learn English is weird. Should immigrants be deported if they commit a serious crime? Yeah, if you're gonna be here and you're not gonna focus on integrating into the society, and you're just gonna cause a bunch of problems, you just don't need to be here. You just don't need to be here. I think that's fair. Should immigrants be required to pass a citizenship test to demonstrate a basic understanding of our country's language, history, and government? No. If naturally born citizens don't need to do that, then naturalized citizens shouldn't have to do that either. Should immigrants to the United States be allowed to hold dual citizenship status? Absolutely. Should immigrants from high-risk countries be banned from entering the country until the government improves the ability to screen out potential terrorists? No, that's a huge violation of human rights there. Should homeless individuals that have refused available shelter or housing be allowed to sleep or encamp on public property? They let people live, all right? If they're not bothering you, if they're not harming you, sure, it's not exactly going to make your city look super pretty if there's a tent in the way. Okay. Let people live. Help them out. Don't just push them away. Should the government require children to be vaccinated? Require? No. Should you vaccinate your children for a lot of diseases? I think so. Um, you can have a debate about the big vaccine, but um, as far as general vaccination, I think there's science to back it. Do you support the use of nuclear energy? Absolutely. Get out of fossil fuels and these fake green environment stuff. We need to, like, fossil fuels, like, there, it's not a renewable resource. It is not something that is sustainable, and it will eventually end, and it will crumble our society. So we cannot, for the foreseeable future, keep using it. But nuclear energy, come on, bro, just boil in some water. Should producers be required to label genetically engineered foods? I think they should be required. If you're messing with stuff, let people know you're messing with stuff. At the same time, though, most GMOs aren't bad for you. Should the government fund space travel? Absolutely not. Should the government fund anything? No. Should the government increase spending on public transportation? No. Instead, make the transportation we have now better instead of just adding more lanes and thinking that'll solve the problem. Should funding for local police departments be directed to social and community-based programs? I'm going to say yes, but it's a soft yes. I know some departments are underfunded, some departments are way overfunded, so that's just generally I'm just going to say yes. Defund more of the government, but at the same time, then you're just taking that funding and putting it into more government programs. So, that can go either way for me. Should police departments be allowed to use military-grade equipment? Now, the reason why I'm saying no is because the government should not just be able to walk and trample on the people, and we just have a police state that does that right now. And I'm saying this with cops in my family, all right? And they love me. They know my positions on this stuff. So I'm not saying this out of a place of hatred, but the goal of the state it's to be the arm. The goal of the police to be the arm of the state. And so when you have that, it creates a situation to where if we're using military grade equipment when they're just supposed to be protecting and serving and just enforcing law, I think that we start getting into some mucky waters. Should convicted criminals have the right to vote? If they're paying taxes, they're allowed to vote. Do you support qualified immunity for police officers? Absolutely not. Get that crap out the door. It has led to so many people not being arrested and tried for things that were truly horrific crimes done to the people of America. Do you support limiting police unions' collective bargaining power for cases involving misconduct? Absolutely. And to be honest, if we could just abolish police unions in general, that would be really great. Should prisons ban the use of solitary confinement for juveniles? No. I'm not very well versed on this, so if that changes, I don't really care. Do you support mandatory minimum prison sentences for people charged with drug possession? I'm gonna say just no, like absolutely not with possession or possession or usage or anything like that. We're not even dealers. Like, people are put in these situations not because they want to, but because they feel like they need to. And instead of trying to make it a crime, instead of focusing on the mental health and the spiritual aspect about it, I think, like, I get it. We have the rage inside of us. People in my life their lives have been ruined by drugs. I have been personally touched in a much more intimate way than you'll ever realize about drug usage and its effects. And the people that I love would not have gotten better in jail. They would not have. They need something else to, and for some people, maybe they just get really, really violent and they need to be put in jail because drugs make them violent. But ultimately, I just don't think it's going to actually be helpful. Should nonviolent prisoners be released from jail in order to reduce overcrowding? Yeah. The U.S. per capita incarcerates more of its population than any other country in the world. It's ridiculous. Should police officers be required to wear body cameras? Yes. Should the government hire private companies to run prisons? I'm all for privatization. So I'm going to say yes, but I can see how that gets really sticky really fast. So I'm putting that down. That could go either way for me. Should drug traffickers receive the death penalty? No. End the war on drugs. Do you support a universal basic income? No. However, if we are going to take a universal basic income and do that instead of all these other programs like EBT, Medicare, Medicaid, and have 1,000 different other programs, and we just had a universal basic income, a UBI, I can accept that. So that's why I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that in the middle. Actually, I'm gonna leave that in the middle. So that's how I'm gonna do it. Should the technology of our financial system transition to a decentralized protocol that is not owned or controlled by any corporation, similar to the internet? I'm going to say yes, because decentralization, especially in something like regards to the internet, internet best invention on planet Earth, also the worst. Just depends on how you use it. Should the U.S. raise taxes on the risk? The U.S. shouldn't just raise taxes at all. Should the government raise the federal minimum wage? No, it's just we keep raising it and prices keep going higher and we keep having more problems, and been saying it for decades now. Stop doing that. Should employers be required to pay men and women the same salary for the same job? Now, when you say be required, you're putting it into law. You have to do these things, which, first of all, insinuates that men and women aren't getting paid for the same thing, which several studies have shown this is not the case. This is a messing with the numbers in order. Like, you can use statistics to say anything, but if you're looking at raw statistics, you cannot come to the conclusion that this is happening. You are paid for what you are owed. And if you're not, you need to raise your bartering skills. And it's truly a skill. Now, men naturally come off as more domineering and can get that done. Women do have to fight a little higher, a little harder. But I think federally mandating it gets into a point to where it's just not really provable or sustainable, and you're just wasting time and money on this legislation that just is not practical. So I'm going to say no, but if that stays, I'm not entirely too concerned. Raise or lower the tax rate, lower it for everybody. Should welfare recipients be tested for drugs? I'm going to say yeah. If we're going to have a welfare state and welfare system, then we have to know it's not going to be going to all these other things. Now, I understand a UBI, like I just said earlier, would kind of defeat that. But if we're going to have all these other programs, then that program needs to be for this thing, and there needs to be disqualifications in order to stop just throwing money around at people. And I understand a lot of people on welfare aren't on drugs, and welfare is helpful to some people, but I just don't think it's the best system. Do you believe labor unions help or hurt? I'm going to say some private unions are okay, but I do not support public unions whatsoever. Should the government increase? Because let's go back up. Here's the reason why. All right, if you are already going to be making money off the people's dime, I really don't want to hear about you pushing for more of this, more of that, more of this, more of that. Get into the private sector if you want to do all that debating, all right? If you're going to take my tax dollars for something, then you're going to have to really, really fight for it, because in the private sector, I can give money to what I want. Public sector, you're going to take my money anyways, and I have no say in it, and it's truly not fair at all. Should the government increase the tax rate on profits earned from the sale of stock, bonds, and real estate? No, they need to stop spending all of our money and save their own crap. Should there be fewer or more restrictions on current welfare benefits? I think there should be more. If we're going to give this money away, it needs to go to people that actually deserve it. Should the government make cuts to public spending in order to reduce the national debt? Absolutely. All right. Especially the military. All right. Reduce military spending instead. I mean, would you not consider that public spending? I'm going to say yes, and also include the military. I'm just going to do blanket, just all of it. Should businesses be required to provide paid leave? Again, being required, no. I'm not going to think they should be required, but considering it's a positive, it's a good thing, that would be beneficial to some people, and there are sleazy bosses who wouldn't do it otherwise. If that were to stay in place, I'm going to be okay with it. Should the current estate tax rate be decreased? Again, just keep decreasing them taxes. Should the government require businesses to pay salaried employees making up to $46,000 a year, time and a half for overtime? Again, requiring things is not the best way to go about creating a competitive environment. But again, positive things, if it stays, okay. Should the government use economic stimulus to aid the country in times of recession? Absolutely not. We just have a bunch of other issues. Should the government break up Amazon, Facebook, and Google? I'm going to surprise the crap out of you. I'm going to say yes. The reason why, hold on, please. The reason why is that the issue that I have is that corporatism and cronyism is not capitalism. And I'm a capitalist. I'm not a cronyist. I'm not a corporatist. And so when we have these massive corporations that are in bed with the government, it creates problems. And so we need to break off the relationship the government has with these businesses, or we need to severely slash the power these businesses have in our government. This is very important to me. Should U.S. citizens be allowed to save or invest their money in offshore bank accounts? Yes, the government just gets upset they don't want to tax it, that they can't tax it. Should the president offer tax breaks to individual companies to keep jobs in the U.S.? give tax breaks to everybody. What is your current stance on abortion? I have a video about this. I'm very much pro-life. I really just do not see scientifically getting the religion out of it. Getting the religion, and I understand this goes against libertarian philosophy. I get it. I completely understand why some people are like just are not going to be with me on that. But scientifically, ignoring my religious background, scientifically, I cannot see how that's not a human being that doesn't deserve rights. First of all, life begins at conception. This is scientifically proven. There is no debate about this. Life begins at conception. So we have to start talking, what is this life? It is undeniably, without a fact, a human being. This is a human being growing. And so if it's a human being, it has human rights, not personhood rights, not any other rights. It's human rights. And I get it's inconvenient for the woman. But your inconvenience does not trump someone else's right to life under any other circumstance, okay? And if that child comes out of the womb, you do not get to kill it simply because it is an inconvenience. And children remain inconveniences for decades, okay? I'm still an inconvenience to my parents, and I'm married and out of the house, all right? Being an inconvenience does not constitute a death sentence. And I truly, truly, truly do not understand how we as a society can look at human life and determine some valuable, some not, based on current stage of development. That sounds like ageism, ableism, and all the other isms to me, and I think it's truly, truly repugnant. I do. Now, I understand most people that are all for abortion, I think, are deceived by the different types of lies spread by the abortion industry. They don't know what it entails. They don't know how violent, how gruesome, how awful it is, how disgusting it can be, how many women die just from abortion procedures. I truly, truly think that there are so many families willing and wanting to adopt. There are so many families that are out there looking for it. I truly think that even if we couldn't provide the best life for these kids, they deserve a chance. They do. I deserve it. You deserve it. They deserve it. Do you support the legalization of same-sex marriage? Take the government out of marriage and make it a religious decision. Government giving me a piece of paper that says, hey, you're married means nothing to me. This is a decision between me, my wife, and God. Get out of my face. Should the government continue to fund Planned Parenthood? Stop funding things in general. Should health insurance providers be required to offer free birth control? Again, being required. Should gender identity be added to anti-discrimination laws? If we're going to have anti-discrimination laws, I think I'm saying no because I think anti-discrimination laws just you're just kicking the can down the road. Businesses that actually want to thrive and survive are going to take in the people that are best for their business, whether it's customers or employees. And so requiring things, it's self-defeating and creates a whole lot more bureaucracy than is needed. But I understand the thought behind it. So that's why I'm saying I'm less concerned about it, because I understand the thought behind it. You want to protect an individual, a minority from certain attacks, and they won't be able to make ends meet because of those attacks. I get that. But I just think forcing it, again, circular. The market will fix itself theoretically without the cronyists. Should gay couples have the same adoption rights as straight couples? Here is where the rubber meets the road. Okay. I am a evangelical conservative libertarian, like evangelically conservative when it comes to my theological standpoint, but very strongly libertarian when it comes to these issues. I'm saying yes because I would rather have a kid be taken care of by loving people rather than being constantly shuffled in the traumatic foster care system. All right. I just would rather have that. No, I don't think homosexuality is okay. I think it's a sin. I think that comes directly from God, and I'm not ashamed to say that, but I really do not understand Christians that are saying, we really care about all these kids that are getting aborted in the room. No, you can't adopt them. What are you talking about? Like, I just don't see how that's logically coherent, but whatever. And I understand the argument. There needs to be a mother and a father. That's ideal. But if I was a kid in adoption and I had an option between two dads or no dads, I'm taking the two dads. That's just me. Should transgender athletes be allowed to compete against athletes that differ from their assigned sex at birth? This is just completely stupid. I really just I'm going to say no. They get their own league. All right, do your own thing. Do your own league. Should the federal government institute a mandatory buyback of assault weapons? Absolutely not. Molin Lebe, however you say it. Should a business be able to deny services to a customer if it conflicts with the owner's religious beliefs? Absolutely. Whether that's a Christian wanting a Christian cake and an atheist says no, or vice versa. Like I don't care. Let people do what they want to do with their business, and they'll suffer for it. Should the federal government require racial sensitivity training for employees? Require? No. Should universities provide trigger warnings? You can if you want to, if you're a private university. If you're public, though, don't waste my money on that. Should states be allowed to display the Confederate flag on government property? I'm going to say no. Here's why. We have government property of the United States of America. Displaying the Confederate flag is a different country. All right, and I think it's pretty dumb to be proud of a place that didn't really exist. Phineas and Ferb lasted longer than the Confederacy. So suck on that, traders. Should businesses be required to have women on their board of directors? Required? No. Do you support the death penalty? This is where a lot of people get really, really hung up. Okay, if it's like a horrific crime. Like for me, all it is rape and murder. That is the only thing I can ever. And like when I talk about like rape, I'm talking about all child sexual assault. Only with those things can I support it. And it has to be undeniable evidence. Has to. Otherwise, absolutely not. We've had way too many issues where this has led to problems. So that's why I'm going to say less, because if we stop talking about, if we overturn it and we say we don't do the death penalty anymore, then I'm going to accept that. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to be okay with that. She will be under the age of 18 be able to receive gender transition treatments. No, neither can they marry, neither can they drive a car or any of these other things, because you cannot make permanent life decisions based upon this stuff. Like you can't get married at 15 years old, 14 years old, but you can chop off parts of your body. Like that's huge. That's huge. And even then with marriage, you can get divorced, you can get remarried, whatever else. You can't put them back on. You understand? You can't put them back on. So I'm concerned about the rights of children there who, in an effort to make themselves mentally feel better, start chopping away. And it's just, we don't like when kids cut themselves. I also don't like when other people cut kids to pretend to make them feel better. Should the government support a separation of church and state, removing references to God on money, federal buildings, and national monuments? Here's the reason why I'm saying no, because it's going to cost money. I don't care if I wouldn't care if they did or didn't do that. If they did it, I'd just be aggravated that I wouldn't be aggravated about the removal of God. I'd be aggravated about that it costs money to do it. Should the military allow women to serve in combat roles? Yeah, as long as they can pass the same physical tests. Lowering physical entry exams for women in firefighter or military or police roles is, one, super sexist. Two, really, really doing a disservice to the people that they're trying to serve. All right. It really, really is. I'm like really strong on that. Should hate speech be protected by the First Amendment? Hate speech, good speech, sad speech. Should the government provide subsidies to taxpayers who purchase electrical vehicles? Now, subsidies are not the same things as tax breaks, so I'm going to say no. Should the government increase environmental regulations to prevent climate change? You should already know this about me by now. Green libertarian. I believe the only really role of the state is to support the life of the country we live in and the people that inhabit it. And so if we're just dumping radioactive waste everywhere, that's a problem. Now, I know we're not doing that, but we're still not exactly treating our environment the way we ought to. So I'm pretty concerned about that. God gave us one Earth. Let's take good care of it. Should the U.S. withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement? Yes, we don't need other countries telling us what to do. Should the U.S. expand offshore oil drilling? Now, I'm going to say no, because I want us to focus on nuclear energy. Do I think like we should like do I think the government should tell these private oil companies what they can and can't do? No. But I think we need to pivot to nuclear energy, so that's why I'm saying no. But if that does expand, I'm not intrinsically against it because yes, I just said green energy. Yes, yes, I know. People are gonna think that doesn't add up. But what I am thinking is that you can do it ethically. You can do it responsibly. And so if we can do that, we can do that. So the government stopped construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. It needs to not go through um, the Native American land. Like it needs to we've already done enough to these people. Stop bothering them. Stop like the way that it I could go on and on and on about the Native American situation. It is truly a travesty that a country of supposed um what's the word I'm looking for? The country of people that are supposedly more docile, more cultured, more whatever else. They come in and they help this land of savages, and while at the same time acting just as savagely as some of the most savage tribes. Yes, there were a lot of bad Native Americans. They raped, they murdered, they pillaged. Yes, but so did every society, and the whites were known just as much for doing that before Christianity became a really really big thing. They did. That was just that's a fact of matter, and it's not like Catholicism really helped it. It was really only until Protestants kind of got around and were like, "Hey, let's not do that anymore." That we really started taking a turn for the better. So you're welcome. Uh, we just need to stop bothering these native people. We've pushed them off in these tiny pockets of really unusable land. We're holding it in trust. Mind you, do you know that the only people that have things held in trust for them are people like with mental disabilities, people that can't make decisions for themselves? But the US government holds native land in trust. It's ridiculous. It's all just malarkey. And I think it's disgusting the way we treat the native people. We need to, if we're gonna keep building this thing, get it out of the native land. Should disposable products such as plastic cups, plates, and cutlery that contain less than 50% of biodegradable material be banned? Now, I'm putting a no because that gives the government power to ban things, and then we're like, again, it's the drug the war on drugs again, where people are gonna find a way to make it, produce it, smuggle it in, and we're gonna be spending a lot of money and time and dangerous resources on plastic. I just don't think it's worthwhile. But for the sake of the environment, if that were to happen, I'm not gonna go up in arms about it. Do you support the use of hydraulic fracking? I'm not gonna answer that one. I actually have very very little knowledge of hydraulic fracking. Should researchers be allowed to use animal testing and the safety of drugs? No, 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 no. All right, I understand animal testing has proven to be beneficial for humankind, but you're going to answer to God one day for how you treated His creation, and that's pretty abhorrent. Should drilling be allowed in the Alaskan Wildlife Refuge? It's a wildlife refuge. Take a hit. Should the government give tax credits and subsidies to the wind and power industry? Different than tax breaks. So I'm not for it. They're different than tax breaks. Should the government build a network of electrical vehicle charging stations? No, stop building things. Should cities be allowed to offer private companies economic incentives to relocate? I'm going to say no because they're using tax money for it. They're using tax money for it, and so because of that, it's going to it comes out of the taxpayer dime. It's not the government doing it. It's the people of that government, and if they want that company to stay, then they don't really have they will no longer have a right to say that, and so that's why I'm voting the way that I am. Should the government increase or decrease? Absolutely decrease. Like cut it way more than half. Should foreign terrorism suspects be given constitutional rights if they are, foreign terrorism, given constitutional rights? Constitutional rights. The Constitution is not about people getting rights. It's about what the government cannot do to the people in the country. So I'm going to say yes. Should the U.S. remain in the United Nations? No. I'm not super well versed on that, but any type of organization or international thing, I'm a complete isolationist. So just leave us alone. Should the U.S. increase or decrease foreign aid spending? Decrease, absolutely. Should the military be allowed to use enhanced interrogation techniques? No, people have human rights to not deal with all of that torture. So I'm not for that. Should the U.S. be named NATO? Nope. Should every 18-year-old citizen be required to provide at least 1 year military service? No, we're not Korea. Get out of here. Do you support President Obama's move to lift the trade and travel embargo on Cuba? Yes, let people trade and travel wherever they please. Should the U.S. continue to support Israel? Check out my last video. I'm not for this whole thing. We just need to get out of it. Let the Middle East eat itself. Should the United States provide military support and supplies, funding, and all that to Ukraine? No. Should the U.S. defend other NATO countries? No. Should the military fly drones? No. Just leave people alone. Cancel the F-35. F-35 has been a massive, massive failure. Look into this. This is like, it's disgusting how much money we spend on stuff that just does not work. It's insane. Should the Ukraine join NATO? I don't care. I'm not answering that. That's Ukraine's problem. Should the U.S. continue NSA surveillance of its allies? No. Stop spying on people, you freaking weirdo. When I do it, it's a crime. But when you do it, you call it surveillance. Should the U.S. sell military weapons to India? Okay. I'm going to say no, because now we're just getting involved in other people's crap. I understand this is not like us spending money, but it's us gaining money and like, hey, it'd be good for the economy. We're getting involved in other people's drama, and I don't want to be dealing with that. Should Jerusalem be recognized as the capital of Israel? I'm not answering that question. Should the government attempt to influence foreign elections? No, leave people alone. Let me go back up. Here's why I'm not answering this question. Jerusalem is effectively, as of now, the capital of Israel, because Israel does exist as a state. They do have their own operating power, and like they're there. 10 years from now, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. So I guess if that's the case, then I'm saying yes to that. But again, I'm staying out of this situation. I'm very neutral on this topic, and I just think that both sides need to quit. No one's having fun anymore. Should President Biden be impeached on allegations of abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption? Yes, just look into it. It's not based on nothing. It's really, really disgusting behavior he has covered up time and time and time again. So please, get this man out of office. Should there be more restrictions in the current process of purchasing a gun? No, not at all. Not at all. Take away, I'm a libertarian. All restrictions are infringements. They just are. Okay? Vast majority of gun crime is not committed by legally obtained firearms. And so we need to stop pretending that law-abiding citizens are the problem. We need to start taking the issue with the criminals and the lawmakers that pretend that it is the law-abiding. So teachers be allowed to carry guns at school. Teachers, I'm going to say a soft yes, but I would personally prefer just an armed security guard. But I understand the thought process behind every teacher being able to do that. Should victims of gun violence be allowed to sue firearm dealers? No, we don't sue spoon manufacturers. We don't sue spoon manufacturers for obesity. We don't sue car manufacturers for manslaughter. This is dumb. Are you in favor of decriminalizing drug use? Very, very much so. Not even just decriminalization, retroactively reduce sentences for those serving time. Sure. Like not even just decriminalizing, but legalizing, making these things no longer an issue for people to buy because they need help. They don't need imprisonment. They need help. Should the Supreme Court be reformed to include more seats and term limits? I'm not all exactly for the seats, but I am all for the term limits. Should it be illegal to burn the U.S. flag? No. First Amendment. Do you support affirmative action programs? No, they're racist. Should people on the no-fly list be banned from purchasing guns and ammunition? The no-fly list has been abused on multiple occasions, but if we're gonna have it, and I don't think we should, if we're gonna have it, at least use it properly. Do you support the Patriot Act? Absolutely not. Should the redrawing of congressional districts be controlled by an independent, nonpartisan commission? Independent, nonpartisan being the thing there, which usually just means liberal, but hey, whatever. Should the government regulate social media sites? We're already at a hard no. Should the Supreme Court justices be prohibited from making financial transactions with people who have vested interest in court outcomes? Why the absolute frick is this even up for debate? Please tell me no one's actually saying that they shouldn't be prohibited. Like, this is absolutely retarded. Should the government grant immunity to Edward Snowden? Yes, he's a hero. Should the government be allowed to seize private property? Under any circumstance? No, you cannot seize it. You can negotiate with somebody, buy it off of them, sure. But being like, we're taking this from you. Here's $1,000. No. Should members of Congress be allowed to trade stocks while serving in office? Again, why is this even up for debate? Who on earth did I say yes? No, no. They should not be allowed to trade stocks while in office. That is ridiculous. So, should social media companies ban political advertising? I'm going to say no. I don't see the issue with political advertising. Um, if these campaigns, like most of these campaigns, are, from what I understand, I could just be straight up wrong, and I'm just speaking ignorantly here. From what I understand about political lobbying, they're taken in by donations, and so if they want those donations, spend those donations privately given to put on these social media sites. Sure, I don't have much of a problem with it. But if the government forces them to do that, then absolutely not. Like, I think that's a really, really bad idea. The government shouldn't tell them what to do. But if private businesses choose to or not choose to, I'm not really concerned. Upgrade Air Force One? No, stop spending money. Should local police increase surveillance patrol of Muslim neighborhoods? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. Do you support increasing taxes for the rich? No. Stop increasing taxes. Learn how to budget your money properly, government. Should the federal government pay for tuition? No. Again, stop trying to provide for everything. Let people provide for stuff on their own. Stuff will balance out. And we have to also stop pretending that four-year universities are that great anyways. This is coming from a guy with a college degree. Should critical race theory be taught in K through 12 education? I'm going to say no. The idea of critical race theory, along with all critical theory, really it's very philosophical, and it holds the idea like there's really no truth, and there's my truth, your truth, and all these other things. I just think nothing gets done educationally in that aspect. I understand the argument for it. Well, all truth is really just seen through the lens. Like, yes, I understand all truth is seen through lens of something, but effectively we have truth that regardless of what lens you view it through, there is that truth. Like, you have too much Benadryl, you're going to start seeing things. That's true no matter what lens you put it in. So I think that needs to be a focus of education and not philosophy, unless the person, as they get older, consent to different philosophical classes. Fund universal preschool, government fund universal preschool. I can't talk. I start talking for too long. We're at 42 minutes right now. I start talking for too long, we start having a problem. Should the federal government fund universal preschool? I'm going to say no, because stop funding things. Do you support charter schools? The idea, now, from my understanding of charter schools, let me look on this. Charter schools are taxpayer funded. All right, no. Do you support taxpayer funded K through 12 that are managed by private companies? Okay, yeah. I understand now. So the idea of people paying their tax dollars into a school system or a program, I'm not for that. I would rather, instead of using charter schools, we do, oh my goodness. Like, well, here's like, the reason why I'm saying no is because I don't want taxes being paid into it, but I understand the options here being like, yes, our entire system should be privatized. Let's not take the taxpayer money and spend it on education. Let's give them their money and let them spend on the education that they want. That's why I'm saying no, because of the taxpayer portion right there. But I understand the argument of, well, yes, our entire system should be privatized. So I'm gonna click on that. Our entire system should be privatized, just so that way, like, it maintains consistency, so that it doesn't give it mixed signals. Should the government decriminalize school truancy? Yes, I think it's so dumb that we have that. It's ridiculous. I don't even think it's really enforced. Do you support Common Core national standards? No, it confuses kids. So many kids are lost. I was a teacher last year for a private school. Oh my goodness, so many kids are just straight up lost. They're like combining all these different Common Core methods that they were taught, and they are just lost. They're lost. Just go back. Like, I'm not saying the old-fashioned way works for everybody on everything, but it worked for the most amount of people, most amount of time. And so that's what I'm just going to say on it. Maybe for some people it helped, but it did not help any of the kids I ever had to tutor in math. Should the government offer a student a voucher they can use to attend private schools? I'm saying yes, because like philosophically, I'm going to say the government shouldn't fund these things. Yes, but I would rather privatize all education, because I want to get rid of the idea that the government just has right to tell your kid where to go to school. That's kind of what I'm trying to combat there. Should colleges be held financially accountable if graduates with degrees leading to lower income jobs default on their student loans? I don't think the college should. That guy took out a loan. He needs to pay it back. I understand times get tough and you need to work out with that company. Hey, can I change this, adjust this, whatever else, refinance? Like, I'm dealing with that right now. Like, I totally understand. But, we took it out. It's our responsibility to pay back. Should the federal government increase funding of health care for low-income individuals, Medicaid? No, like I said earlier, I would rather take a UBI over Medicaid every single day. Should the government require employees of large businesses be vaccinated? No, that's just a really bad idea. You're stepping into a lot of murky water with that. Do you support the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare? Again, no. Do you support a single-payer health care system? No, but I'm actually not I'm not super concerned about it. Like, if that were to happen, I wouldn't throw a fit. Should people be required? I don't think it would work very well. I think you would have a lot of problems, but I wouldn't throw a fit. Should people be required to work in order to receive Medicaid? Yes, as much as according to their ability. If they're able to work, then they should. Should cities open drug safe havens where people who are addicted to illegal drugs can use them under supervision of medical experts? I think that can happen privately, but I don't think cities should be super involved in it. Is that an option? No, but legalize drugs. Sure. Should the government fund the World Health Organization? No, the people that are in the World Health Organization, look into that. There are some scary individuals, and I'm not a super big conspiracy theorist, but there are some scary people with some scary ideas. Should the government regulate the prices of life-saving drugs? We already do that, and people are dying every day because they don't have access to insulin and other things. So it's not working, so we need to get something else in there. Should the federal government be allowed to negotiate drug prices for Medicare? Again, we're already doing that, and it's not working. Should there be more or less privatization? Again, I'm just only seeing the positives of privatization. We spend the most per person in the U.S. On healthcare than if not every other country, the vast majority of countries, and we still have awful healthcare. It's not about privatization versus publicization. It's about what we're doing, and quite frankly, I don't trust the government to do anything for us. So as we stand right now, I'm voting for more. Should medical boards penalize doctors who give health advice that contradicts contemporary scientific consensus? I don't think so. I think that there have been multiple times we've seen this be positive, multiple times it seems to be negative. I also just don't really care. Should health insurers be allowed to deny coverage to individuals who have a pre-existing condition? Now, a lot of these insurance companies receive tax dollars, and so for that, I'm saying no. I think it's really scummy to be doing that. Again, we're focusing on life here. We're focusing on the ability for people to actually live. And so if we're going to have the government, helping these industries and these industries profiting a lot off the American people, sorry, bud, you're going to have to fork over the cash. Should the government increase funding for mental health research and treatment? No, they shouldn't increase funding much on anything. Do you support legalization of marijuana? Yeah. Not because I want to use it, but because the drug war is stupid. What party do you most identify with? Libertarian. I ain't answering any of these typed out questions. Hold on. Who do you think provided the best? I ain't reading all that. All right, show my results. So, like I've said before multiple times, I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to certain things about libertarianism, but my focus is mainly through a Christian lens of we have to take care of the people and the environment God has given us. And so if that means I have to go against the party sometimes, that means I will, but still about 90% of the time I'm agreeing with the Libertarian Party. I think it's absolutely freaking hilarious that I'm more of a socialist than I'm a Republican. I've done this already. I wanted to see kind of where I was going to land. I changed my answer on a couple of things, not the answer, but how much it mean to me or whatever. Obviously, at the bottom, basically, is Democrats, the working family party, all these other super left wing parties that think that they know everything, but they don't. So yeah, all about liberty, all about freedom and human achievement. As freedom grows, so does the ability for humankind to achieve, and that is my true personal conviction. All right, let's look at who I would best be to vote for. We got the president, Jacob Hornberger, John Mons, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Robert Kennedy Jr. That's pretty crazy how they're both 70. I want to see kind of where that lines up for them. So yeah, Jacob Hornberger I'm already quite familiar with. He's a great guy. his philosophies and the things he's talked about. I'm all for him. John Montz, he must be new. I've not seen him yet. But I like him. I like him a lot because he's, what the frick is that? Joe Exotic? Wow, wow. I gotta say, wow. The Senate, there's absolutely nobody in the Senate that I would even remotely like. I'll probably just skip that one, unfortunately. But I appreciate you guys sticking out with me on this one. I know this was a long one, and I know it was not exactly as, set up as I typically do, but I just wanted to walk through my initial thoughts, fire them off, get them going. Debate with me all you want. Put in the comments, I think you're stupid, and I think you deserve to die. Put it down there. I would love it. Let me know your thoughts about these things, where you agree, disagree, your thoughts on any of these people, why you think Joe Exotic should even remotely be here at all. I didn't even know he was running, and if he is, I need to look this up because that is absolutely insane. Anyways, God bless you guys. Have a great one. Thanks for watching.